The academy hall was full of noise, light, and alien voices, but in the middle of it all was one quiet spot, a single empty seat. Every day, students from different planets came to study here, but no one ever sat next to her. She sat alone. Her name was Valari, an alien girl with deep blue skin and glowing violet eyes. Her long silver hair was tied in a braid, and she wore the standard academy uniform like everyone else. But there was one thing different about her. The scent. It wasn't bad, just strange. To most, it smelled too strong. A mix of wet soil, old flowers, and something unknown. Students would wrinkle their noses, whisper, and move away. Some said it gave them headaches. Others just laughed and called her names behind her back. Valari didn't fight back. She sat, still. She had learned long ago that silence was safer. The teachers said nothing. They acted like the seat beside her didn't exist until today. A door opened and a new student walked into the hall. He was human. He had short brown hair, a light beard, and tired eyes like he hadn't slept well. His name was Michael, and he was transferring from Earth after his mother's death. He didn't look around much, just searched for a place to sit. Most seats were full, others had bags saved on them. Then he saw it, the only empty seat in the room. He walked straight toward it. Everyone turned to look. "No way," a girl whispered. "He's going to sit there. Does he not smell her?" Another one laughed. Valari looked up slowly, her heart beating faster. Her eyes met his. She expected him to stop, to smell her scent and turn away like everyone else. But Michael didn't stop. He sat down beside her and placed his bag under the desk. Valari froze. The room fell into a hush. Michael leaned back and took a deep breath. And then he smiled. "This smell," he said quietly. "It reminds me of the woods near my grandmother's house after the rain." Valari blinked. No one had ever said something like that before. "You don't mind it?" she asked, her voice soft like wind. Michael shook his head. "I like it. It feels like home." Gasps rose from around the room. A few students giggled. Some whispered insults. But Michael didn't care. He opened his data pad and looked at the screen. Valari turned her face forward, but her hands trembled. She had been alone for 3 years. 3 years without anyone near. And now, someone sat beside her. Not just sat. He smiled. After class, Michael packed his bag and stood up. Valari looked at him, unsure if she should say something. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" he asked, tilting his head. "For not being afraid." Michael chuckled. "Why would I be afraid of someone who smells like earth after rain?" She smiled slightly, a shy and rare thing on her face. Behind them, some students made rude comments. One boy said, "Watch out, human. She might melt your nose." Michael turned, his face calm but serious. "Maybe your nose just isn't strong enough," he replied. The boy shut his mouth, surprised. Valari watched him. Her chest felt warm. As Michael walked out, she whispered a word in her own language, a word that meant first light. It was something her mother once told her. The first one who stays is like the sun after a long storm. For the first time in a long while, Valari felt the storm inside her calm down. Later that evening, she returned to her small room in the academy's lower wing. She opened a small wooden box. Inside it was a tiny crystal capsule with glowing scent vapors from her mother's homeworld. She never opened it. No one had ever made her feel safe enough until now. She held the capsule close, thinking of Michael's words. Maybe one day she would share this with him. Maybe this human was different. Maybe he could change everything. And so the empty seat was no longer empty. And Valari was no longer alone. Not completely. Not anymore. The next morning, the classroom was buzzing again. But this time, something was different. Michael walked in and every head turned, not to see him but to check if he would sit in the same seat again. He did. Without a second thought, he dropped his bag under the desk, sat next to Valari, and nodded at her like it was the most normal thing in the world. Valari glanced at him, unsure how to act. No one had ever returned to that seat twice. Not once in 3 years. She opened her notebook with trembling fingers, pretending to focus. But Michael leaned closer, speaking softly. That smell again. It's stronger today, he said with a calm smile. You feeling okay? Valari hesitated. It changes with emotions, she whispered. My scent, I mean. Michael nodded thoughtfully. So, today it's stronger because... She didn't reply. Her cheeks turned a slight shade of violet, the alien version of a blush. Then, unexpectedly, Michael closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Not in a mocking way, but like someone taking in the air of a peaceful forest. It's nice, he said. Honestly, I've missed it. Back home, my grandma had this small garden. After rain, the earth smelled almost like this. I never thought I'd find it again, especially not in space. Valari looked at him in shock. You mean that? He opened his eyes. Every word. She had no words, just silence and a heartbeat that felt too loud in her chest. During break, Valari didn't leave like usual. She sat quietly, watching. Michael eat some kind of earth snack, something crunchy and orange, he noticed. Want to try? She shook her head. I can't eat earth food, my system's too... different. Right, he said. Sorry. It's okay, she said softly. Most people forget I'm not like them. Michael smiled gently. That's why I try to remember. Valari turned her eyes to the window. Outside, young aliens played. Games, shared food, and laughed. She used to want that, to be part of the crowd. Now she just wanted peace. Do you miss Earth? She asked. Michael grew quiet. Yeah, I do. A lot. Especially my grandma's house. She raised me. She passed away recently. That's why I transferred here. Valari looked down. I'm sorry. It's all right, he replied. She always said that pain and beauty live side by side. I think she'd like your scent. She had a deep respect for nature. Valari's fingers touched the edge of her sleeve. You're the first one to ever say something kind about it, she said. My scent. It comes from my mother's side. Her people communicated through it. Feelings, memories, even healing. Michael leaned forward, interested. Healing? Like medicine? Not exactly. It was emotional healing. We called it scent memory. My people used to guide others through pain by mixing scent and sound. But no one practices it anymore. Not after the war. Michael tilted his head. What war? Valari looked away. The one that destroyed my mother's homeworld. Now everyone thinks our scent is dangerous, toxic, so we hide it, suppress it. But that's like killing a part of yourself, Michael said. You're not toxic. I've sat next to you for 2 days and I feel better than ever. Valari looked into his eyes. He meant it. Later that day in the library, Michael searched the archives. He typed, Scent memory therapy, Planet Valerie Prime. Very few results showed up. Mostly old dusty records from over 50 years ago. One small entry caught his eye. Scented crystal capsules were used by the Valari race to store emotional imprints from key life moments. Only the emotionally bonded could activate them. Michael copied the line and showed it to Valari the next day. She stared at the words, then she whispered, I have one. Michael's eyes widened. A scent capsule? She nodded. It belonged to my mother. I've never opened it. It won't respond to me alone. Why not? It needs trust, she said. 2 people. One must accept the scent fully. Michael leaned back. Then maybe I can help. Valari looked shocked. You'd do that? Of course, he said. If your scent carries memory, maybe this capsule has something worth seeing. Worth remembering. Valari pulled out a small silver case from her satchel. Inside was a crystal, small, glowing faintly with soft green light. Vapor swirled inside, like a tiny storm caught in glass. She held it tightly. I'll decide soon. But thank you, Michael. Back in his room, Michael wrote in his journal, "Everyone avoids her because of her scent, but to me it feels like home. And the more I learn, the more I think she's not cursed. She's holding something powerful, something forgotten." Closed the book and stared out the window at the stars. And somewhere deep inside the academy, Valari clutched the capsule close to her chest. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of what it held, because someone might finally be ready to remember. Late at night, the academy halls were quiet. No footsteps, no voices. Just the soft hum of machines and glowing lights above. Michael couldn't sleep. His mind kept returning to that crystal capsule, to Valari's scent, to her story. It was strange, but comforting. Like he had known her scent long before he met her. Like it was hiding in his memories, waiting to be remembered. He stepped out of his room, careful not to wake his neighbors. The air was cool. He wandered down an unfamiliar corridor, thinking of nothing but feeling everything. Then, without meaning to, he stopped. Something was there. A scent, faint, sweet, and earthy, almost like fresh rain on old wood. It pulled him forward like a trail. He followed it. It led him down forgotten steps, through a rusted door half covered in moss, and into a place the academy had clearly forgotten. An old garden. But not like the ones humans built. This one was alien, full of glowing plants, spiral trees, and misty air that danced in soft colors. The floor had stones that lit up gently when touched. Some of the plants pulsed with light like they were breathing, and right in the middle, Valari stood. She turned as he entered. "You followed the scent," she said softly. "I didn't mean to," Michael replied, awed. It felt familiar." Valari nodded. "This was my mother's sanctuary. A scent garden. Before the war, places like this were common. Every family had one." Michael looked around. "Why is it hidden?" "After the war, the academy sealed it off. Said the scents were too wild, too dangerous. Some made others hallucinate. Some made people cry. My mother saved this one. She left me the key. I come here when I want to remember her." Michael took a step closer, breathing in the air. The scent changed as he moved. Now it smelled like campfire smoke, then like honey, then like salty wind. He looked at Valari. "It's reacting to me." She smiled, small and sad. "It responds to emotion. The garden reads your memories. It reflects what you miss, what you love." Michael touched a blue flower. It opened slowly, releasing a soft hum. Suddenly he saw a flash, his grandmother's kitchen, her laugh, the cookies she used to bake. He stepped back, blinking. "That was real," he whispered. Valari nodded. "Scent memory. You felt it." Michael's breath shook. This is beautiful. Why would anyone hide this?" "Because beauty hurts," Valari said. "Because scent can show truth, and not everyone wants to feel truth." She walked to the center of the garden and sat on a stone seat. Michael followed. "I used to dream of sharing this with someone," she whispered. "Someone who wouldn't run away. Someone who could smell past the surface." Michael sat beside her, quiet. She pulled out the crystal capsule again. The vapors inside swirled faster now. "It's getting stronger," she said. "It knows someone is close, someone worthy." Michael looked at her. "I want to help you open it. Not just out of curiosity, but because I think this is something that needs to be seen. By you. By me. Maybe by others too." Valari held the capsule in both hands. "It holds my mother's final scent memory. She locked it before she died during the evacuation. She said, 'One day, someone will stay long enough to open this with you.'" Michael's voice was soft. "Then let's try." She placed the capsule between them. "Close your eyes," she said. Michael obeyed. "Let your mind open. Think of your deepest memory, one that carries scent. sound, emotion. He thought of the old forest trail back home, after a storm, of the soft, damp earth, of his grandmother's arms. Her shawl always smelled of pine. He breathed in, and then, click. The capsule opened. A burst of vapor rose up, glowing bright gold and soft green. It floated between them like a spirit, then slowly spread through the garden. Suddenly, the garden changed. The plants glowed brighter, and around them, a memory formed like a dream. They saw a tall alien woman, strong and elegant, Valari's mother. She stood among others of her kind in a garden just like this. Children played. Laughter filled the air. And in the background, a human man helped repair something, a bridge maybe. Michael's heart froze. It was his grandfather. Valari gasped. "You're part of this memory?" Michael stared. "My grandfather. He told stories about working with alien healers during the first contact years, but I never believed they were real." Valari turned to him. "This scent connected us, even before we were born." The vapor slowly faded. The garden returned to normal. Valari opened her eyes, stunned. This changes everything." Michael nodded. "We were meant to meet." Silence fell, but it wasn't empty. It was full of connection, of purpose, of something ancient being reborn. The garden had shared its secret, and now so would they. Together. The next day, Michael and Valari returned to class, but something had changed. Whispers followed them. Not just the usual rude jokes or nose-pinching. Behind Valari's back, these were sharper now, more serious. Curious eyes stared longer. One alien teacher stopped mid-sentence when he saw the two sitting side by side again. The news had spread. The scent capsule had been opened. Somehow someone had seen the light glowing from the garden. Security cameras had picked up the energy spike. Even though the garden was sealed and forgotten, the system had still noticed. Later that evening, Michael was called to the administrative wing. He didn't knock. The door slid open on its own, revealing a round room with floating chairs and shimmering screens. 5 alien figures sat behind a wide table, their expressions cold and unreadable. The Academy's council. In the center sat Headmistress Jova, a tall insectoid alien with hard silver eyes and arms that clicked when she moved. "Michael Gray," she said, her voice like dry leaves. "Please sit." Michael nodded and took the single seat in the middle of the room. "You accessed a restricted area of the Academy," Jova continued. "The Sector Garden 7A, long sealed due to psychological risk." "I didn't break in," Michael said calmly. "I followed the scent. Valari brought me there." "That's exactly the concern," another counselor said. "This one a smooth-skinned reptilian. Valari of House Velicine has long been warned to control her scent emissions." "She didn't do anything wrong," Michael said. "The garden was safe. Beautiful, even." Jova's mandibles twitched. "Beautiful. To you. But history tells us another story. Her kind's scent therapy caused side effects, hallucinations, emotional collapse. We sealed that path for a reason." Michael leaned forward. "But the capsule didn't cause pain. It shared memory. A healing memory. And part of that memory showed my grandfather." The room went still. "You lie," said the third counselor, a pale alien with 4 eyes. "Humans were never in scent-bonded memory fields." Michael's voice stayed steady. "He told me stories when I was a child, about a hidden garden, about a woman with silver eyes and violet scent who helped soldiers calm their minds." "I believe him," came a voice from the doorway. Valari stepped inside, holding the opened capsule. She walked to Michael's side and bowed to the council. "This capsule proves our ancestors once worked together," she said, her voice stronger than ever before. "Michael helped unlock it, not through force, but trust." Counselor Jova looked uneasy. "Even if that is true, scent memory is not part of the approved learning system anymore." "Maybe it should be," Michael said. Have you ever wondered why mental health cases in the academy have risen? Why so many students feel lost even in this advanced place? The council looked at each other, but no one spoke. Valari continued, "My people didn't use scent to harm. We used it to feel, to connect, to remember." A long silence followed. Then Counselor Jova sighed. "The galaxy has moved on from ancient ways. You will not be punished, but you are warned. Do not awaken what was buried." Michael stood. "Sometimes, buried things are buried for the wrong reasons." The council said nothing more. They were dismissed. Later that night, Michael and Valari sat in the garden again. The plants glowed brighter than ever, responding to their bond. "They're afraid," Valari said. "Afraid of the past. Afraid of what scent can reveal." Michael nodded. "Afraid of what they've forgotten." She looked down at the capsule. "They can ban the garden, seal the doors again, but they can't erase this memory." Michael leaned back on the glowing moss. "You know, when I sat beside you that first day, I didn't expect any of this. I just smelled something that felt real." Valari smiled. "You're not like the others. Your heart listens." He laughed. "Some people say it listens too much." A soft breeze passed through the garden, and a new scent filled the air. Warm, vanilla and soft rain. Valari blinked. "That's not me." Michael looked surprised. "That's my memory." The plants had begun reading him now. Scent wasn't just Valari's language anymore. It was becoming their shared language. The next day, their class noticed something even stranger. The seat beside Valari was no longer avoided. It was full. Michael's scent had changed too, subtly, like his human smell had blended with hers. Now instead of turning away, some students leaned in, curious. "What is that smell?" one asked. "It's calming." Valari didn't speak. She let Michael answer. "It's a memory," he said. "A shared one." The alien girl who once made others hold their breath was now helping them breathe deeper. But the council was watching, and they weren't done trying to silence the past. The days passed, but the memory of the council's warning stayed like a shadow. Still, Michael and Valari kept returning to the hidden garden every evening. They didn't speak much there. They just sat, breathed, let the scents carry their thoughts. It was quiet comfort. But something had begun to change inside the crystal capsule. The glow was growing stronger. The vapors no longer swirled gently, they pulsed. Alive. Waiting. "It's reacting to us," Valari whispered one night. She held the capsule between her hands. "Like it knows something's coming." Michael nodded. "Or maybe it knows something's ready." That evening they decided to try again. Not to open it by force, but to open it fully. To allow the memory inside to speak. They sat in the garden center. The stone bench had become their place now, half covered in soft moss that glowed gently. Under moonlight filtering through the dome above, Valari placed the capsule on the flat stone between them. "It only works if the bond is honest," she said. "No lies. No masks." Michael placed his hand next to hers. "I've got nothing to hide." She looked into his eyes. "Then close them." They did. And together, they inhaled deeply. Valari focused on the memory of her mother, the way she would hum softly while weaving scent threads into the air, telling stories without words. Michael focused on the forest trails, on the smell of pine and his grandmother's worn sweater, on safety. The capsule pulsed once, then again, and then it cracked. Not a loud sound, just a soft tick like an egg breaking open. Golden vapor flowed out, not in a cloud but in slow ribbons, wrapping around them like silk. Their breath caught. The air became thick with memory. Suddenly the garden around them dissolved, and they were inside the memory, not just seeing it, but standing in it. They stood in a vast open field under two suns. Alien children laughed, running between trees that shimmered with blue leaves. A melody floated in the air. No instruments, just scent and sound woven together. And in the center of the field, Valari's mother stood, tall, graceful, with silver eyes and glowing skin. She was weaving scent with her hands, and others gathered, close to breathe it in. Then another figure stepped forward, a human man. He wore an old Earth military jacket, patched and dusty. His face was kind, lined with age and wisdom. Michael gasped, "That's him. That's my grandfather." Valari looked at him, stunned. "You're sure?" He nodded. "I saw that jacket in pictures, and that smile." The man in the memory bowed slightly to Valari's mother. She smiled back, and their hands touched, briefly. Suddenly, the scent changed in the air. Valari and Michael felt it, a wave of peace, deep and overwhelming. For a moment, everything felt whole. Then the memory shifted. Screams echoed. Smoke rose. In the distance, the field darkened. Ships filled the sky, metal beasts with weapons ready. An invading force. Unknown aliens. The memory fractured. The peaceful garden burned. Valari's mother turned, shielding the children with a wave of scent, pushing them to safety. And then, she turned to the human man. She handed him the capsule. "Keep this safe," she said. "Find the one who smells like both worlds. Only, then, the garden will live again." The memory ended. The garden returned. Valari was shaking. Michael sat still, his hands gripping the edge of the stone. "She gave it to your grandfather," Valari whispered, "and he passed it down. To you." Michael nodded slowly. "That's why it opened, because we both carry the scent. Yours by blood, mine by memory." "But what does it mean?" Valari asked. "What is this scent inside us?" Michael thought for a long moment, and then said, "It's unity." Later that night, Michael returned to his dorm. He opened his old travel bag, pulled out a faded notebook, and flipped to a page his grandfather had written long ago. "If you ever smell rain and fire at once, follow it. It will lead you home." Or to her. Michael smiled through tears. His grandfather had known. Meanwhile, Valari stood alone in the garden, holding the now empty capsule. But instead of feeling sad, she felt calm. The capsule was empty, but she was not. The memory was alive inside her now, and inside Michael. Two different beings, but carrying the same scent of remembrance, of hope. The next day, when they walked into class together, the change was visible. Students didn't whisper this time. They watched, and one brave alien boy leaned toward them and asked, "Can I smell it too?" Michael and Valari looked at each other, then smiled, because something had finally begun, and the world would never smell the same again. The academy was never the same after the capsule opened. At first it was small things. Students, passing by Michael and Valari, would slow down, not to insult or stare, but to breathe. They didn't know why, but the air around the two of them felt different, softer, warmer, like something old and kind was waking up. Then came the dreams. 3 students reported vivid visions, memories from their childhood they hadn't thought about in years. One girl dreamed of her late brother. Another remembered the laughter of her dying mother. All said the same thing. "It started when I sat near them." Word spread fast. Soon more students began sitting near Valari, even asking questions. "What is this scent? Why do I feel calm?" "Is this therapy?" Michael explained carefully. "It's called scent memory. It's a healing gift from Valari's people. But it only works if your heart is open." Valari added softly, "It's not magic. It's memory. And memory is powerful." Some students scoffed. Others stayed. A few cried quietly, feeling emotions they hadn't let out in years. And just like that, a new kind of class began. Not written on the schedule, not graded, but deeply needed. Soon even the teachers noticed. One senior alien professor, old and bitter, found himself standing silently near the garden after class. He didn't speak, didn't sit, just stood and breathed. And then he wept. When asked why, he simply said, My son died 10 years ago, but now I can remember his voice. Valari nodded. The scent remembers what we've forgotten, but not everyone welcomed the change. In a dark chamber beneath the council tower, Headmistress Jova watched surveillance feeds with cold eyes. "They're spreading it," she said. Counselor Reth hissed. "The scent is infecting minds. Students are skipping regular therapy sessions." Jova's hands clicked. "We warned them. They ignored us. Now the memory is waking others." Another counselor asked, "Should we shut the garden down?" Jova stared at the glowing footage. Michael was helping a young alien boy breathe through panic using scent-matching flowers. "No," she said. "Shutting it down would make them martyrs. We need to break the connection another way." Her eyes narrowed. "Break the bond." The next morning, Michael was called again. Not to the council room. To the medical wing. "We just want to run a scan," the nurse said. "For your safety," Michael agreed. He was used to tests. Earth's transfer program always checked human compatibility with alien environments. But something felt off. The scan went longer than usual. More machines. More quiet stares from the staff. Finally, a doctor approached with a strange look. "Michael," he said, "your neural patterns have shifted." "What does that mean?" "It means your brain is beginning to process scent like Valari's people do. Not just smell, but memory, emotion, identity. It's unnatural for a human." Michael sat up. "But I feel fine. Better, actually." The doctor lowered his voice. "They might try to stop this. You're becoming something new, and not everyone wants that." Michael's heart sank. So the council was watching after all. Later that night, he met Valari in the garden. He told her everything. She sat quietly listening, then said one word. "Good." Michael blinked. "Good?" "Yes," she said. "Because if they're afraid, it means we're close." "Close to what?" "To waking them." She stood and opened her arms. The garden responded. Flowers bloomed brighter. Mists thickened. The air was rich with memory. "This is the first time I'm not hiding," Valari said. "And you're changing because of it. That means the bond is real. It means our people were never meant to stay apart." Michael looked around. "It feels like the beginning of something." Valari nodded. "Or maybe the return of something ancient." They stood side by side in the glowing garden, and far above them on the top floor of the academy tower, a single alien elder watched from a distance. He closed his eyes, and he smiled. Because he remembered. The next day, a notice appeared on every screen in the academy. A new optional program has been approved, Scent Memory Exploration, led by students Valari and Michael Gray, supervised by the Historical Council. The students cheered, the garden filled with new faces, some still wrinkled, their noses. Some stayed in the back, but many came forward, and when they breathed in the scent, they remembered. Every story has a beginning. For Valari, it began with an empty seat, cold, silent, avoided. For Michael, it began with a scent that reminded him of home. But now, that seat was never empty. Weeks had passed since the council allowed the scent memory program to begin. What started as quiet curiosity had grown into something much bigger. The garden wasn't just a secret place anymore. It was a classroom, a refuge, a bridge. Valari stood at the front, not as a student now, but as a guide. Her soft voice led others through breathing exercises, helping them unlock memories buried deep inside. Some students laughed, others cried. Some said nothing, but came back the next day. Michael stood beside her, explaining the human perspective. "You don't need to understand the scent," he would say. "You just need to feel it, let it speak." And people listened. Aliens from different species who once barely talked to each other now sat side by side in the mossy circle, sharing their stories through scent. One morning, Valari arrived early. She sat on the old stone bench in the center of the garden, the one where Michael had first sat with her. The air was still, quiet. She closed her eyes and let her scent rise naturally. A soft breeze picked it up, spreading it through the garden like a message. And then, footsteps. But not one pair. Many. Dozens. Students, teachers, even 2 council members entered the garden in silence. They didn't speak. They just took a seat. No rows. No titles. Just beings sitting together, breathing in the same air. Valari opened her eyes and smiled. The garden was full. Michael entered last, carrying something, wrapped in cloth. He walked to the center and knelt in front of Valari. "I found it," he said. "In my grandfather's old bag. I think it's time." He unwrapped the object. It was a second capsule, cracked, old, but still glowing faintly. Valari's eyes widened. "Another one?" Michael nodded. He must have carried 2, one for the past, one for the future. They placed it on the stone together. No ritual, no scan, just silence. And then, without being touched, it opened. A gentle white mist floated out. This time there was no sudden vision, no memory from war, just warmth. Calm. The mist spread slowly through the garden, brushing against each person like a hug. One by one, the students began to laugh, smile. Some wept softly, because the mist didn't show old memories. It created new ones. It was the scent of unity, of peace, of a moment that would never be forgotten. After that day, something changed across the academy. The scent memory program was officially added to the interspecies curriculum. Valari and Michael were invited to speak on other planets. Diplomatic leaders came to study what they called the Valari method. But for Michael, it was never about fame. He still sat in the same spot every morning, next to Valari, and every morning, more students joined them, even those who once mocked, even those who had feared her scent. Now, they carried parts of it with pride. Tiny bottles of mixed scents blended in memory therapy sessions. They called them feel caps, a new invention, a new start. One evening, Valari and Michael sat alone again in the garden. The sun had dipped low behind the glass dome above. "Do you remember?" Valari asked softly. "The first thing you said to me?" Michael grinned. "I said your scent reminded me of Earth after rain." She smiled. "You were the first person who made me believe I wasn't cursed. And you," he said, "helped me remember what love smells like." They sat in silence again, not because there was nothing left to say, but because the silence now was full. The next cycle, the academy added a statue to the entrance of the garden. 2 figures stood back to back, one human, one alien, holding a crystal capsule together. On the base was written, "The seat is no longer empty." In memory of the day one scent changed everything, and somewhere across the stars others began planting their own gardens. Small at first, simple, but filled with scent, filled with memory. And in every garden, there was always one seat left open for the next person brave enough to sit down and smell the truth.